Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. We have another amazing guest on today. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's me.
Oh, I heard it. I heard that pop.
You heard me open up a brand new Topo Chico? There we go, boys. I'm going for the
it's game time.
I'm going for the sponsorship. And then we got the Perrier.
The plastic Perrier. It doesn't make the same sound.
It's okay. It's coming, though. Sparkling water all day.
That's right.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Do not forget to hit like and subscribe if you're here. A real quick background on the three of us. My name is Stratton Brown. I've scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures. I built a 7-figure real estate portfolio all before I was 30. And I got started in real estate with 0 life skills, and it's absolutely changed my life. We have the master of hair. He's back from another vacation at the Ritz. I think he got another coffee mug from there. I'm not sure.
Did you?
Did you
get one?
Looking for
Did you get one?
the Ritz sponsorship too. Hopefully I'll get one Pellegrino and the Ritz sponsorship. What's up, guys? It's Jason Pritchard. It's your other host. Backstory on me is I worked in corporate America for 15 years, was unhappy with my job, was unhappy with my life. We burned all the boats in 2014, went full-time into real estate investing, haven't looked back since. We've done north of 500 deals, own a real estate portfolio of around $17 million. And now we're dabbling in some land development and some larger projects now. Our goal with this pod is always to take our learning experiences, condense them down, transfer them to you guys that are listening so you can get to where you want to go as fast as possible. And excited for our guest today, Mark, man. I'm excited to hear what he's got.
Yeah.
Then we have the Captain America, Mr. Dean Rogers.
What's up, guys? Dean Rogers, your other host here. Excited for another episode today. Man, I got stories. We'll go into this after the podcast, but I used to be heavy into the sparkling water. Heavy. We'll go into myths and thoughts about sparkling water after this. But I started my career in the NFL, then transitioned to corporate, then into real estate. Been investing in real estate for the past decade in Central California. We've done 750 plus deals, 8-figure rental portfolio, and coaching students how to get started with wholesaling. And you guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
And then we have Mr. Mark Stubler, the master of operations. I want to share a quick story. A couple years back, I was at a family friend's basketball game, and I just happened to sit there next to Mark, had no idea who he was. And I talked to him for like an hour and a half of this basketball game just about business.
It was a good time. Yeah.
He was an amazing person, and it just goes to show what type of man he is. So it was like some random Joe Schmo, and I'm just picking his brain about what he's going on after I learned who he was. And so that was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Mark.
Hey guys, I can already tell. What have I been doing my whole life? Why haven't I been hanging out with you guys more? This is incredible. Just having a good time talking bubbly water and talking real estate. I think those 2 things are the perfect combo. But quick story background for me. I came from selling fencing and decking, and I'm here to argue that is the perfect foundation for getting to acquisitions and real estate. But since then, 10 years in the business, worked with lots of families. And now about 5 years ago, we launched Joe Homebuyer, a franchise model, which a lot of people think, this is craziness. There's only 2 of us that have really done it at this level, and excited to talk about Joe or provide any insights of what I've learned along the way.
Why do you think I think Jason has the best sales background because he was selling people a bag of fucking magic beans in college education. Of high ticket, like selling them that. I think it's crazy.
Wait. What are the magic beans?
Nothing. There's nothing in the magic beans. Jason's just holding old ladies to the fucking fire, bro. Tell them to buy this.
Selling $90,000 educations virtual all over the phone is you can cut your teeth really quick. Yeah, dude, for sure.
Oh,
yeah, that was 2006, 7, 8, 9. And then in corporate America, I did all business to business technology based sales. So I agree with Mark. I think a strong commission-based sales background, that was my competitive advantage when I got into this field, because once I learned the language of real estate, I was like, dude, this is what I've been doing my whole life, and I get to make the lion's share of the money. I was like, this is easy. So yeah, dude, I'm curious to hear, excited to hear what you have to say in regards to that, Mark. I think it'll be good feedback for the audience.
Yeah, happy to jump in. I can even address it real quick right now if I have the mic. You guys flag me if I'm out of turn here.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Okay, so I'm convinced that the more no's you can get, so I'm talking solar door-to-door guys, I'm not talking car dealer sales guys, because they have people coming to them. I'm talking, you're knocking on doors and people are telling you no all day long. and you have to learn to convert a no to a yes. That commission, that aspect is just phenomenal training ground for sitting down, building a solution for sellers, and ultimately agreeing to put a purchase contract together.
Mark, can you train that for people to be excited for the no and to convert it, or is that just got to be like a natural thing?
That's a great question. I love the question because I would love to actually get your guys' take. I would tell you that it is something you have to get comfortable with. And case in point, I'm totally out of the game talking to in acquisitions. I happened to be on the phone with the seller last week, and I did not. In fact, we had a training this morning with our franchisees, and I shared with them how I dropped the ball, that I did not get the no that I needed to get. I conceded a little early. I left money on the table, and it was because I was out of practice. So it is something that even that I've done for years, and I'm comfortable getting a no, and I understand that that's the framework. Chris Voss of Never Split the Difference suggests that everything, a true negotiation starts with no.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, you have to be in the game, you have to be in the practice, and it's a refined getting comfortable with it is maybe the answer I'd give you.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that training is one thing, putting into practice and taking action on it is another, because there is no doubt that in this environment, us talking, us role playing, doing things, it's pretty safe, right? Even the responses, difficult or not, is in an isolated kind of comfortable environment. When you're face to face and you have that energy exchange with a real customer, seller, whatever it is, your nerves are just kicking in. It's different. So you being able to manage your emotions and default back to your training can be a real challenge. And I think we'll often default to something that just feels comfortable in the moment, whether it's the right response or not. And oftentimes what's comfortable is what is either natural for you, right? Whether it's just like a complimentary or a comfortable type of response, or you will default to your training. And naturally you want your training to be how to handle that no and convert it to a yes, right? How to take that objection, know that it's a valid objection, or know that it's actually a soft surface level objection, and right around the corner is the actual yes, or getting closer to the yes. So, I just talked about that today on a coaching call about handling objections. And most of the time that no is what they're just wanting to say so they can gain some control, or they're just not sure. Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is your training. Cause I remember when I was knocking doors for solar, and I went on a solar appointment, and I hardcore closed this guy because I just thought that's what you're supposed to do. But it was so uncomfortable because we didn't uncover everything else on the front end, right? If you can just do all the work on the front and then you naturally lead to the end to we're like, hey, we're working together. It is way easier, to use Jason's terms, to put someone to the fucking screws, like sign this piece of paper, to where most people don't even get trained on sales, is what I would say. To where Jason had an entire framework, I'm sure, in his head. He can see start to finish of every sales transaction, and he can apply that to whatever he's selling. And that's what it takes, I think, to really, really be good at sales, is you just got to uncover all those things, check all the boxes, and then here we go.
Yeah, it's important, dude, because I feel like sales professionals get such a bad rap. I remember that when I was growing up, and you think of them as kind of like sleazy, slimy people, and they're definitely bad actors in our space. But if you can get good, because just going straight into real estate isn't the easiest thing, even if you have like the desire and the drive to want to do it. I think lots of people can get into another sales environment where they can learn these skills, earn some income. A lot of that stuff transitions over. I'm curious to hear your feedback, Mark. I know you said, like, if you're on a lot, or like you were in my second corporate job where leads were like the company was doing marketing and leads were coming to you, right? Like, what's the, like in your head, explain the difference to somebody that's maybe young, they want to get into the business, and it's like you going door to door, knocking and like going for that no. How different of a sales environment is that versus a place where the company's paying for marketing, they're feeding leads, and why does the skill set with the door-to-door stuff pay so well and transition so well into real estate investing?
Look, that's such a great question. And I'd love to hear your guys' take, but in my perspective, that when you're out there knocking doors and, you know that in order to, bring in the bacon, you've got to get, you've got to, win this person's heart, right? Versus when I'm on a lot, like a car salesman, hey, the next lead's going to come in. The odds of you treating that lead, and it's just human nature, I would suggest that the odds of you treating that lead with as much urgency is probably, I think it's asking a lot of a salesperson by just human nature to be fed things versus they're having to create and generate everything. The other thing is I would suggest, and there's people that are listening to this, that are saying, no, I'm as hungry as they come. I'm as ambitious as they come. I'll turn over every rock with every lead that comes in. And there's certainly some truth to that. But I just love the effort that goes into knocking doors, the effort that goes into converting no's to yeses, the realizing that it rests on you to refine your skills, get better, and to ultimately put in the necessary action, right? Then Gino Aramani I botched his last name. He's the coach for UConn girls basketball, right?
Yeah.
12 national championships. When he brings his team on at the beginning of the year, he says, look, I don't train on energy and effort. I just, he's not going to train on, he'll teach them skills and technique and that type of thing. And so all of us have to put our own energy and effort in. That has to come from within. The skills and the technique and all that can be developed over time through the energy and effort you're putting in. You put up enough shots and you refine that skill, you're going to get better and better type thing. And I think that's what you get when you're pounding on doors, you're pounding the pavement, creating your own leads, doing that. And then I think it translates even better if you're talking getting into real estate when you're having to invest your own efforts, time, and even money into the real estate space through marketing and different efforts. That's why when I've observed franchisees that do the best or acquisition managers that do the best, they're the ones that have actually had door-to-door, not incoming leads. That distinction seems to make a big difference.
And it also makes you appreciate the inbound leads so much more when you cut your teeth like knocking doors, dude, and you've had to go knock hundreds or thousands of doors to get a yes. And then you invest in some marketing and that phone rings and the sellers actually want to talk to you. You treat it with that sense of urgency and the how important it is. You understand. And that's something we see with newer investors or coaching students, right? Like, they throw money at marketing and then the phone rings and then they don't answer the phone, or they don't treat it with a priority, or that, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, you can't learn that sense of urgency, I think, without having to cut your teeth doing some of that stuff that you're talking about now. So it gives a lot of good context.
And I think a big thing, and we talk about this a lot, the prerequisite to open up the door too. If you enter into the game and you don't have that, you'll just get washed out. Everybody thinks they work really hard. They want a pat on the back. Bro, we all work really hard. Everybody's working hard. After this, Jason has calls, Mark has calls, I have calls, Dean has calls. And then you keep going and you still got to manage your family. You got to manage your home. And so hard work, if you don't have that, I personally feel engraved into you, you're going to get washed out in business alone because it's going to be so competitive.
Yeah, well said. One thing that I think helps with the framework, if I can share, and I'm switching gears a little bit, but my mind went here when you guys were talking about, all right, I want to knock it out of the park. I want to figure out how to, be successful at sales, be successful in real estate. I think the thing that I discovered, I used an acronym because the acronym I think helps you retain it. But we teach our franchisees the JHB method. And obviously it's easy. JHB stands for Joe Homebuyer, but we also use it as join, hear, build. And if you think about it, and obviously Jason, Stratton, Dean, you guys all have extensive, real estate, but also sales experience, right? At various levels. And if you realize that's what you're doing, you're joining forces with the seller, meaning you're building that connection. But when you make a meaningful connection, they feel like you're on the same side of the table. They feel like they're working with you. Then you hear their needs through that discovery. They start to trust you. You're joining forces. So they're just, sharing everything that they need in order to transition in their life as it relates to real estate. And then you build a solution. So I love and that's the framework that I believe sets you up for optimizing the perfect sales formulas, join, hear, build. And I'm telling you, if you're talking deep discounts, when the seller feels like you're joining forces and that they really have been heard, it opens up a door of window, world of possibilities.
That's the big
Yeah,
thing
I
right
agree.
there. Yeah, you got to get on the same side of the table. I think that's the big thing. When we invested in ourselves and got coaching and training, that's one thing that wasn't really being done before when I was running the acquisitions by myself. And when I went and got the training and coaching that I needed for sales, it was all about eliminating yourself as the decision maker, eliminating yourself as the one that was there to negotiate. And that changed everything for us. It really opened up the ability to have deeper conversations, to really transcend that conversation. And what the crazy part was, we didn't start paying more for houses. We started getting better deals, right? Go figure. Like now I'm not negotiating and I'm actually getting better deals. You would think it'd be the opposite. Oh, I'm using these great negotiation skills. I'm really pushing on them hard. I'm going to get better deals. No, it was the opposite. And it was just about hearing them out, like you said. And once they felt heard, it was less about the money. It was more about the end result they were getting. And so for me, I think that's huge right there. And a lot of people miss out on that, especially early on. And, some people are fortunate enough to get a coach or a mentor early and be able to pick up on that and apply it. And it makes a huge, huge difference.
Mark, give us some context. I'm curious for myself, but I'm sure the people listening want to know too. So what did the transition really look like from you, right? So you had this background in this kind of home services field, right? What was the transition initially to real estate? And I'm also really curious to know that transition into Joe Homebuyer, the franchise model. I'm sure we'll get into that and have a bunch of questions about that. But what did that change look like for you? And what was that initial transition like?
Yeah. So I had, right off of the 2-year knocking on doors, Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints mission. So I had that 2 years. Some would say it's a perfect training ground for getting no's all day long, right? I did that in Seattle, Washington. And then I did a couple years worth of selling alarms. And then I was at this fencing and decking company. And I have to admit something here. A lot of my fencing and decking years were incoming leads. I just told you that I favor the outcome. So I've been spoiled both ways. I've done the knocking on doors and I've had incoming leads, but I was fortunate to be quite successful. So I got a lot of reps. I met with lots of people for years. And actually I had a kind of a unique experience. I was friends with the owners. I was with the company for several years. I was a top producing sales individual because I did the energy and effort that Gino talks about. I was good at that. And so I got more reps than most people around me. Even if I wasn't the most refined salesperson, I just got lots of reps. So I got really comfortable hearing out the seller, or in this case, the buyers of the product, and building a solution with them. So anyway, one day the owner of the company comes in and goes, "Hey guys, we need you to come in and be an inside sales rep versus going out and just going on these appointments. I need you to take one day a week and I need you to be inside sales." And I felt it was interesting. It was like the gift. I call it a gift because I realized it was like a trigger that went off of me. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have complete autonomy. I don't get complete upside. And now he's dictating my schedule, where the last several years I've been able to set my own appointments, come and go as I please. And it was a trigger. So I actually did the transition over about 9 months where I was doing both. I was pulling both industries. I was selling fencing, trying to do real estate. And luckily I was able to make the transition pretty quick.
Mark, I love asking my Mormon friends this. How big of a deal has your mission been as far as like your mental fortitude? Because people don't really realize how hard it is for an 18-year-old to go out into the world like that. And then you're converting people on eternity. It's the best way I could say it. Like you're selling the best thing in the world. So like, how has that helped you out in your career?
Dude, it has been everything. Like there was a time when my 18-year-old son, he didn't go until he was 19. He was eligible at 18. And he knows this is all, free to talk about. It was really hard for me as a dad because my mission meant so much to me. It challenged me to the core. It was the most challenging thing by times 10, anything I'd ever experienced. It was so brutal. It was all day, every day, early morning to late at night, just talking, knocking on doors, away from your family. You don't, and at the time I was dating my girlfriend, who's now been my wife for 22, almost 23 years, but she was my girlfriend. I left her. We only talked through letters. And I was dedicated to, preaching the word of Christ all day long. And it was the most rewarding and challenging 2 years of my life. Like it was brutal. So when my son was kind of on the fringe of, I don't know if I want to go, I just had to watch and observe and let him come up with a plan. He's now 21 months in, and he just doesn't want to come home a day early. He is so grateful for the experience he's having. And he's now trying to convince our senior daughter in high school to get out there and serve a mission as well. So it's been incredible.
I love it. Mark, what makes you such an amazing operator? I think everybody looks for a Mark Stubler, in my opinion.
You know, it's funny because you guys had Cody on the other day, and he's just a gift in terms of vision, ideas, energy. The dude, and I know I'm not answering your question with this comment, but I'll come back to it. So Cody's been a business partner for 10 years, right? We started just doing wholesaling, that type of thing in 2016, late 2015. And then we, started Joe after that. The dude doesn't feel anxiety. Like, he doesn't get stressed. So like I'm the guy that, worries, kind of like analyzes, and then it starts to kind of, I'm feeling like I'm putting all the puzzle pieces together. That's just how I'm wired. And so it's been awesome to have a great business partner who really has complete different strengths. He doesn't think in terms of processes. He just comes up with an idea and then he dumps it on my plate and says, now go figure out how to get it done. And that's what I do. And I can analyze and I can assess and I go, what part of this is going to be the most efficient way to roll this out? So, to dial in your answer, we all have different strengths, and that's okay. If you're a person that's really good at ideas and you're willing to work hard, then find somebody that you can partner with or associate with that's really good at building processes and systems. Look, guys, we have a franchise now. We have 80 franchisees across the country. It would not be where it is. I might be good at processes and systems and things like that, building out a playbook. But I have people on my team that are way better. And I'm not trying to be humble. Like, I'm literally telling you, the trajectory we're on for growth and the experiences we're having is because I've surrounded myself with incredible people. Cody on the visionary and scaling and partnership and relationship side. But I've got a COO that it literally is knocking out of the park, changing everything. I've got a marketing guy that we recently hired that is helping get awareness out. And it is amazing when you surround yourself with skilled people. So sure, I have an instinct or a knack for, executing, working hard, building out, trying to refine things. But I'm even better, or I'd say if I have a ninja strength, it's actually putting better people around me. I'm literally sitting in our board meeting 2 weeks ago, and I'm thinking, I'm literally the dumbest person in the room. These guys we do the cognitive test. This is actually true. You do the cognitive test because you do the predictive index and the cognitive test. They're all processing things at a faster pace than I am. Their ability to get things done and execute. So I'm like, maybe I'm not the dumbest person because I was at least smart enough to put these people around me and hire them. But I just feel fortunate to tell you that's really my ninja strength is putting incredible people around me.
How do you find the best people?
This is going to be an answer that everybody's going to say, oh, brother. But you know what it is? It's personal development and individual leadership. Guys, I'm so clear on what I'm doing and I'm passionate about it. I'm principle based in how I operate. They know I'm going to be honest with them. They know I'm going to be consistent. And they see that I'm a perpetual learner. I'm trying to become a better leader. I'm trying to become somebody that has influence and is doing things the right way. And I've been fortunate to attract people that are attracted to that mission. Other people are super hard charging, super A personality, and they'll run through walls and they attract their own tribe. But fortunately, I've put a lot of emphasis on personal development into leadership. And I've been able to attract people that buy into that vision and it complements their core values. And it's been a harmonious, connection of sorts.
Do you run one-on-ones with all of your upper level
just
people?
Direct reports? Yeah. So my COO, we meet once a month. Cody and I obviously strategize a minimum of once a week for 90 minutes. But that's that's more of just a collaboration strategy. And then I have my direct reports because I'm still in charge of franchise development, selling franchises. So I meet with each of them, but then my COO meets with everybody else on the support side and technology side, everything that way.
Mark, when you were getting started with Cody in real estate, did you start on your own first, or did you and Cody find each other and build a business from there?
Yeah, we were both about a few months on our own, and we were friends because he worked at the fence company for a year, and we stayed in touch. He went and did an insurance brokerage for about 5 years. We stayed in touch. He got into real estate. I saw the buzz behind what he was doing. We went to lunch. I started doing it as well on my own. And then a few months later, we said, hey, why don't we team up? 1 + 1 could equal more than 2. And it has.
I love that. So when you guys got started, were you just like purely operations, Cody was out there maybe doing acquisitions and sales. You were doing the marketing and building out the systems, or what kind of hats have you worn? Because obviously when you're getting started, you're wearing a lot. What kind of hats did you wear? How did you guys kind of separate out your roles?
So interestingly enough, Cody did acquisitions with me, but pretty quickly in, maybe 6 months in, I ended up doing the majority of acquisitions and was really kind of the COO of the business. Cody was doing primarily dispo, high-level relationships, things like that. And then Cody was really the visionary for, although he didn't execute on the marketing, he was the visionary for the marketing, meaning he would find out what people are doing and then bring it back and we'd execute. And that was really helpful for me, where I'm a little more on the analytical side. I can be a little bit more reluctant, to make decisions as quick as he does. That was the yin and yang for him to just say, no, we're trying this, let's do it. But I did the acquisitions, the majority actually after a while.
Mark, how on you and Cody, how have you guys stayed partners for so long? I think this is one thing everybody underestimates in business is that you're married essentially, and you have to be in it together, and business partnerships are still hard. So how have you and Cody made it this long and built so much together?
Well, and we have different things and we have not always seen eye to eye, guys. And Cody would be fine with me saying this today. We have hard conversations. We actually had a hard conversation today because there's different directions, not related to Joe Homebuyer, but we've got different side projects and things that we're working on. Because you have money, you have time, you have resources, you have connections, and different things pop up. And, how are we going to do this? And how, who's going to be in charge of what, who's going to own what portion of what? And the answer to all that, Strat, is it is hard. And so you have to be partnered with somebody that's equally invested in becoming their best. And I know that to be true of Cody, and I hope it to be true of me, in the sense that Cody's committed to being a good dude and principally based. And so I have that as a partner, right? So I don't have to worry about him, not telling me the truth or doing things behind my back or something like that. And so we have that high level of trust. And then it's literally the hard conversations. It's like the conversations that you dread. It's the conversations you're like, okay, I hope this doesn't offend him when I say, hey, this is what I think your value is. It's the brutally honest conversations, like a marriage.
One of the things that I don't necessarily have this problem, but I know with other people, they either prolong or procrastinate to have those difficult conversations. Yeah. What's your framework, Mark? Like when we've got to talk about something and it's going to make either the other person or both of us uncomfortable, are you just I rip the Band-Aid off and just jump right into it? Do you let it go for a little while to see if it works itself out and then come back to it? What's your process for approaching those type of things, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, I really like the rip the Band-Aid off approach, but I've been guilty of the really ruminating, starting to assume what he's going to say, getting frustrated, trying to bury something, and then all to find out that when we finally talked about it, I was totally wrong in his assessment. He's actually was way more generous and could identify with my perspective than I ever imagined, type thing. And so it was by condition, by mistake, that I've learned that you've just got to have the conversation. And even if you don't have it all well thought out, everything, you've got to just be transparent and open. And then if you don't get to the finish line on round one, you just visit it again as soon as possible. But yeah, dude, I'm guilty of, in the early days, of just burying things and frustrations and they just ruminate. Problems don't age well, right?
That's a great phrase. Problems do not age well.
and it's natural. I'm that way too. I think most of us, nobody likes conflict. So I think it makes sense to want to just see if it sorts itself out. But it reaches a point sometimes where it just lingers and it starts to ripple out and kind of poison everything else that is in and around the business, including your personal life. So I'm if I feel a certain type of way and I constantly have that feeling and it doesn't go away and it lingers, I just like to approach it and do that. So what was the transition like? How long did you guys wholesale together, and what was that time frame like? And then when did you start seeing the light for what Joe Homebuyer is now, right? And what did that conversation look like? And why did you feel like there was a need for that, for you guys to bring that model to the marketplace?
So kind of interesting scenario. We were doing business about 3 years, and we realized, hey, we've got a pretty good thing going. So we came into the Salt Lake City, Utah market, and we did pretty well pretty quick. And so we started getting questions from people around us. How are you guys getting your foothold so strong, so quick in a competitive market? So we started thinking, all right, how could we, if we can do this here, how can we do it in other markets type thing? So we ended up trying to get into Indianapolis because one of our Utah, Andy McFarland, who's a friend now, at the time he was just a competitor. And it was like, well, if he's in Utah and Indianapolis and New Mexico, why can't we do the same thing? So let's go into Indianapolis. And it was a failure going into Indianapolis because it was a distraction on Utah. We weren't ready to expand. And, that was actually, I should tell you the whole scoop there. That was after month like 13. So we're literally a little over a year in and we're like, oh yeah, we're ready to expand. We figured out the world, and it ended up being a distraction. So anyway, fast forward a couple of years after that, we realized what's the right way to go about this? And we had a mutual business partner through EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, that we had met. They had successfully navigated several brands in the franchising world. And so we went out to lunch and we said, hey, is this something we could franchise? We know that there's Homevestors out there. They have their product out there. But we think we can do it better. We think we have some major advantages. So their model is they control the marketing and they really kind of restrict everything. We give complete autonomy to our franchisees. We give them all the framework, the connections, the discounts, all the resources they need to help build out the blueprint. But we don't limit their ability to be loud on social media and all these different things. And I highlight that to say we identified some things that really helped keep the cost of a lead down, and that made all the difference for our franchisees and their ability to be profitable and successful and to really spread the word of Joe. But we like the model of franchising for this reason. We don't succeed as the franchisor unless our franchisees are succeeding. What people don't realize is you don't make money on the franchise fee. That just goes to commissions and brokers and all the marketing to get there. It literally is a model where if you can break even on selling a franchise, you're in good shape. Now the model is such that I have to support my franchisees in such a way that they have to have success in order for the franchisor to make money. And I like that mutual buy-in. I'm totally bought into their success. They have to buy into their success. And if we're cohesive in that relationship, that can be a thriving arrangement, meaning we have to work together and we're aligned in terms of what it's going to take to succeed. And so that was 5 years in, we decided, okay, through this connection, this is our path to launching a franchise model quick and give us an opportunity to expand our best practices all throughout the country.
Do you feel like it's somebody that has some sales acumen, maybe some business acumen, but not a lot of real estate experience, that finds more success just because they're not coming in with their own flavor of how they like to do things and they're open to hearing your feedback? Is that profile and avatar a more successful franchisee for you? Or is it somebody that knows the language a little bit, can speak it, can understand how to put a deal together, but they're just lacking the systems and the processes, and that's just the rocket fuel on the fire that they need to really take off? Which one of those people do better?
So we've defined our avatar very, very clearly. We are looking specifically for people that have existing real estate experience that are ready to take their business to the next level. But if you're asking who naturally are our top producers and those that are really thriving, it's when we can take our framework and build it around somebody that has business and sales acumen, somebody that has already experienced. And a lot of times that's why this avatar is spot on. Somebody that's even been a wholesaler for a year, anywhere. We have franchisees that have bought our franchise that have been in the game, wholesaling, rehabbing, that sort of thing for years, but they just want to accelerate their growth. They want help scaling to the next level. And those years of doing it themselves, writing checks for marketing and wondering if it's going to come back and produce leads, and the lumpiness of the business and sticking with it, and having to refine their sales skills to get more deals over the finish line and to stretch the revenue on each deal. Those type of skills that are only developed through actually doing it has been really what's so attractive to us. We've sold franchises to everybody from, just corporate America guy, all the way to somebody that's doing, significant revenue in their existing business. But we find that those that really thrive in our environment come with at least a base level of experience, and then they can just bring what they have and we can accelerate their growth and their experience and create a mastermind and a mentorship and a support around them.
So I was just talking about this at lunch with my business partner, actually talking about the cyclical aspect of people coming in and out of business, really in any industry, but specifically we were talking about real estate and how, you know, people are getting into wholesaling, getting into flipping. They come into the business, they're excited, and then they fizzle out. And that's just the nature of all types of businesses, whether you're talking restaurants or you name it, right? You've got a unique perspective of seeing people that come into your environment, your ecosystem, and naturally people who decide to invest in themselves, have taken the time, effort, and built the skills to be able to even afford to do that. So there's something to be said with that. But they also have the mindset of investing in themselves and for a better future. So, you know, we see that ourselves as we take on students, right? There's a higher chance for them to succeed as opposed to anybody else that's just getting started, because they have training, they have support, they have community. So they already are off to a better first step forward. As you see people come in and are part of your ecosystem, what are some of the things that people struggle with the most to get really in that rhythm, right? Because naturally, as from your perspective and us running businesses, a lot of this just comes down to numbers, right? It's a numbers game, right? And you can reverse engineer this business. But for those that you see are coming in and maybe struggling or just not getting off to the start, what is it about that situation that they are struggling with most commonly?
Well, I boiled this business down to two functions: marketing and sales. And obviously, you know, that's business 101. That's true of most industries, but it's so relevant. Now you're in the incredible vehicle of real estate. It rewards better than most in terms of margins, opportunity, avenues, different channels you can choose. So there's no argument among us that real estate it's just the best vehicle to be a part of, but you have to be good at marketing and sales, or the better way to say it is be committed to continuous improvement in marketing and sales. So I use this analogy sometimes. Like if I sold a Subway franchise, a Subway is really pretty predictable. Like you're on, a favorable corner, but your money goes towards, so, your real estate's part of it, but then you go and you invest in sandwiches or bread and meat, right? Essentially. And then you have to fill the room with your teenagers. But at the end of the day, people feel more comfortable doing Subway. And this will tie into what you're saying, Dean, because they're spending money on sandwich, on bread and meat, and they see that come in each week. And so it's like, okay, it's working. And then they see somebody coming in and buy their sandwich. Now they're not making much money at the end of the year. How much do they have left when they're selling a whole bunch of sandwiches? But they see the activity, and so they feel better. In our industry, we're saying, hey, go spend the same amount as you would on bread and meat. But by the way, it's going to come back lumpy. Yeah. You're not going to get that many leads. Most people you talk to are not your customer. It's super niche. And you have to continue to refine the data points to get better and better at that. And that's where most people struggle, is staying committed to marketing, spending enough on marketing, being diversified enough in marketing, meaning having multiple channels, and then really optimizing the sales process. So we spend a lot of our time supporting our franchisees on the best practices, the mindset, the skill around marketing, as well as the resources in terms of strategic partners, discounts, all the things to help them optimize marketing. And then we spend a lot of time on acquisitions, because I'm here to tell you, nothing has a bigger influence over your success in this business than how good you get at the acquisition process, the negotiation, the managing the leads.
Talk about marketing a bit, Mark. I know lots of people on here are, like new investors or newer investors, right? You guys obviously have your fingers on a lot of data. You see how your franchisees are performing, right? What is there any advice or tidbits that you can share with the audience regarding marketing right now that you think is working? Are you saying and telling your franchisees just invest in more inbound and spend the money to get the higher quality lead? Or are you guys promoting outbound? Is it a mix of the two? What are you guys seeing that's working in the market right now?
Well, I can tell, and hopefully people learned just by how you asked that question, you understand marketing, because you've got inbound that would be things like, web related PPC, people calling. And I love just the subtlety of what you're asking. Like, what are you encouraging people to do? Inbound, oftentimes these web leads are going to be more expensive than, say, if you're cold calling somebody. But not everybody's ready to invest in a PPC lead because they don't have their sales dialed in. They're not managing the leads. They don't have maybe the skill yet, or the urgency, or the time availability, if they're doing it part-time, that they can afford to invest in something like PPC. So with our franchisees that are full-time, which is really a basic requirement, then we're trying to get them to the inbound leads as soon as possible. But in the interim, as they're ramping up, as they're developing their skills, as they're evaluating the vitals in their business, the vital KPIs, and I can go into that I think would be a helpful framework for everybody. But as they're evaluating those things and saying, okay, here's what the feedback's telling me, I'm good, I'm doing well with managing my leads, then we encourage you to shift towards more inbound, because those are going to be the fastest converting and oftentimes the highest revenue.
What are those KPIs, like surface level ones, right? I know we can get in the weeds with some of this stuff, but is there, for somebody that is maybe ready to make that transition, right? They're spending some money on mail. Maybe they've got PPC or PPL coming in, right? They're a solopreneur or a small team. What would you encourage that person that's ready to make the leap to a little bit more refined process with some systems built around it? What are the things that they should be tracking and measuring in order to find more consistent success in their business?
Yeah. And I think this is exactly that. I think this is the more consistent success in their business. And it's tracking what I refer to as your business vitals, your LOWAC. So that's another acronym, and it's the leading measurement. And I think it's important when you're thinking KPIs, are you tracking a leading measurement, or are you tracking a lagging measurement? Your lagging would be even, how much revenue, obviously. You could even suggest that appointments are a lagging indicator of how you're managing the leads. So the LOWAC is leads, opportunities, appointments, contracts, and closes. Now, why is it important to track this? So the leading indications are how many leads, and I would refer to a lead as any inquiry. So you send out direct mail, you got web, any inquiry, even if it's a buyer just saying, add me to your list. And here's why. The net lead is the opportunity, and you need to understand the difference between a lead and an opportunity. You need to see how well you're converting leads to opportunities. Some people try to cut out that first one. They're like, well, my net leads was this. And they're only tracking starting at the net lead, but they're not actually seeing how well they're doing at converting all the inquiries, the total leads. Yeah, that's right. And the reason that that's so critical is because you need to know your speed to lead, what percentage of the leads you're getting in contact with. And because so many of us get X amount of leads and they put in the wrong phone number on the web lead and you never get in touch with them. Where others will skip trace, drive past the home, put a door knocker on, call the neighbor, sister, brother of that address, and they're able to get in touch with the seller. And oh yes, this person is very much motivated. They just entered the wrong phone number, and that's what I mean. And by tracking lead to opportunity, you're keeping yourself honest to the activity level at converting inquiries or leads to opportunities. Anyway, leads to opportunities is one indicator of my action around the activity of these leads, but then you've got opportunities to appointments. What percentage of these now net leads, these opportunities I'm nurturing, am I actually going out and am I presenting numbers to? Am I actually in the trenches with, and what is my conversion rate on those appointments? So those vitals, just tracking leads, opportunities, appointments, contracts, and then your ratio of contracts to closes is, I believe, the business vitals. I believe that is the framework for success.
That I couldn't agree more. For everybody that's watching, that's the blueprint that I follow as well. We label them a little bit differently, but it's the same exact criteria. And it gives you the ability to diagnose what's going on in your business very easily. Because if you see some big gap between like total leads versus net leads, or net leads to appointments, or appointments to contracts, if there's something wrong with appointments to contracts, we've got to train our acquisitions person out on the appointment. What are they saying? What are they doing? And work on that, right? If we're not getting enough appointments for opportunities, right, then we've got to work on our tier 2 call, right? So it makes it very easy to put your finger on the pulse. Otherwise, if you guys don't know that, then you have no idea where the problem is at your business. And there's all these potential leaks and you can't put your finger on the right one. So I think that's a great framework to have for those of you guys that want to take this to the next level. If you want to go from solopreneur, wearing every single hat and being the one that's just hustling and do it, that's the prerequisite, everything that Mark is talking about to be able to make that leap. That was really good stuff.
look, if you guys are open to it, I have just a 90-day, just a simple Excel file. Our franchisees, it automatically uploads so they can see a dashboard with these percentages and how they're doing it, converting through this LOWAC process just in our CRM. But we have I'd be happy as a giveaway. If you guys are okay with it, they can just email and get just a tracker. So now you can actually use this framework to track your own leads, opportunities, appointments, contracts, and closes in your business, your LOWAC. You just email your gift at joehomebuyer.com. So if you email your gift at joehomebuyer.com, we'll just send you out an Excel file, and you can start to track, and you can see weekly how you're doing. That will track it over the month. And then you can see on a quarterly report, a dashboard that just produces in the Excel file what your trend is, what your percentages are. And it doesn't matter where you start. The goal is that you track where you're at, get a baseline, and work to improve it. And that will be the levers in your business to see, am I on the right track?
I love it. I want to take it in a little bit different direction. I want to know what you think makes the best sales reps, period, personality trait wise, and then what you think made your COO great, and like with the traits you're looking for in that person.
Okay. So COO great, and what characteristics make a great sales individual?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have more data than anybody else at this point. If you have 80 franchises, you have more data than anybody I know about, hey, on our hiring process, this is exactly what we're looking for. I don't know if it's like PI, if you're like, hey, we only really want Mavericks and captains, but really if it's a Maverick, what is that?
Okay. So actually where you went PI, I'll go there. So Mavericks, captains, ventures, it has to have an A to the right. And by the way, if you're not using a people analyzer tool like Predictive Index or DISC or something, you're missing the mark, because you really need somebody that thrives by exerting, that enjoys exerting influence. They get energy from exerting influence. The problem is so many people hire. So I'll give you the opposing side of this. So many of us hire collaborators because they're great with people and they make you feel warm and fuzzy. But guess what? They're not killer closers, and they actually don't get energy from exerting influence. They like to collaborate. And I just got done saying earlier in our call here that, it's great to build a solution together. But at the end of the day, guess who's asking for the business? The closer's asking to get this deal done based off the plan that they've helped present to the seller. So you have to have somebody that has an A to the right in the predictive index, and that's those profiles. It sometimes includes somebody like a strategist or an analyzer, but the fear is now their D is to the right as well, and they are less, they're a little more analytical, and sometimes that stymies their ability to make decisions. They can't see, this property is going through probate, and so instead of navigating that, they're like, well, I guess I have to wait until it's done with probate. They can't see, navigating through the challenges. So those are the three best ones: Maverick, Captain, Venture, and some of the others that have an A to the right. If the A's to the left, I would tell you almost universally, like 99.9%, it just won't work. The one exception, because some of you are listening to this, you've done your own predictive index, and you're like, well, no, I'm doing good, and I'm a collaborator. If you're the business owner, that's a whole different role, because guess what? You're in survival. You're in growth. You're invested into every lead, every success. And so you have to exert influence. It may even drain you a little bit. So don't misunderstand. There's people of all different predictive index profiles that succeed. But if you're hiring this position who's not an owner, they need to have a high A. And the other characteristics is I want transactional sales experience. I want them to have received lots of no's to convert to yes. They have to have as much of that as possible. The speed to pick this up is so good. I actually prefer if they haven't been an acquisition manager before. I want to brainwash them my way. I want them young. I don't like old dogs because I don't want to have to try to convince them they need to learn new tricks. I want people, by the way, I know I can't really perfectly profile like this. So put the disclaimer out there. I will hire an old dog, but I'm going to be a little more reluctant because I want somebody that has not, that's made maybe six figures, but they've never made high six figures. They're just ready for the next step in their business. Where if you've got a guy that's casually making 150,000. Oh, here's the other one. I really like the B2C, business to consumer type sales experience versus B2B.
It's much different, bro.
It's
a much different sale, in my opinion. If you can go B2C high ticket, That is a lot different than B2B high ticket. It's a faster sales cycle too that they could get used to.
What are you guys telling your franchisees, Mark, or advice that you're giving them in regards to finding the people, right? So I think lots of people are on here. They are that solopreneur. They're making 300, 400, 500 grand just as them and a VA, or they're just hustling really hard. That first hire for acquisitions is a key one, right? Are you guys like, where are you seeing your franchisees find success? Is it friends and family? Is it posting on social media? Is it Indeed? Like, where do you go look if you're ready to make that leap? And where are your franchisees finding success hiring solid acquisitions people?
So a lot of them have found success through their network, through social media, through who do you know that knows somebody. And it's one person removed or whatever. That seems to be one of the strongest ways to make this connection. Something that's coming as a warm referral. The other success model has been they start as a lead manager and they work their way up to, maybe they start, you hire somebody for either dispo or lead management that has a high A that likes to exert influence, and they progressively work into that position. We've got a guy right now in our office that really two that are that way that just come in, one for dispo, one for lead management, that both have the A to the right. They like to exert influence. That's what gives them energy. They like the sales, but they've never been really in a fully done transactional sales yet. So we're it's a nurturing process versus turning over these hot leads to them, because you can't afford to turn over hot leads to somebody that is not ready to transact at a high level. So I don't know if I really went deep into that, but it's everything, man. It's raising them up in the company. It's the social media. We have not had a lot of success for this particular position. Almost every other position we've been able to hire through VA services, international people, as well as Indeed has been helpful for admins and that sort of thing. But when it comes to acquisition managers, it's almost entirely bringing them up or network.
I definitely think there's talent available. Look at the market that we're in right now. There's lots of people I feel like that are struggling, that maybe have found success in a market that was a little bit more friendly, where people could make some more money, and then they didn't realize all of the pressure that's involved with being the person that writes the check for the business at the end of every month. And then they realize they didn't like that pressure, especially when we're in a market that's going like this, but they have skills. And so I've had lots of success tapping into my network. We're very active on social with all the events and stuff that all of us do collectively. We're so out there in front of the community. I think that's definitely been our number one source too. So I think that's great advice.
That's awesome.
So Mark, I was going to ask, cause it's funny when it comes to hiring, each time I've looked to hire a new team member, I have gone the traditional route of Indeed and other different job recruiting websites. I've gone through the efforts to do that, but every single hire has actually come through my network. I've gone and I've posted on social media at the same time, and the actual leads came from there. Yeah. I might have gotten applications and sorted through people, and it just wasn't getting the type of candidates I was looking for. But sure enough, everything came from the network. So how are you evaluating A players? Okay, because this is something that has been a theme this year for my business partner and I, is A players only. And that means either the current team members need to elevate and become A players, or someone else got to come in and fill that is an A player. How do you guys take account of that? How do you either make sure you have the right training and determine, hey, we've provided enough training and it just hasn't got there yet? What type of time frame do we give them to kind of analyze that? What does that look like to you as a business owner and operator?
Yeah, I've got a couple things I think will be helpful. And I will tell you put it on Indeed anyway, because it will give you contrast. You can interview more people. And who knows, that can open up the door to additional people that you might actually leverage in your business, or a lead manager that you could trust over time that could develop into that position. I just wouldn't turn them. Anyway, I'm just reluctant and have not yet successfully found somebody from Indeed that I put immediately into acquisitions. But what is the framework we do to find A players? That was the question. So the first thing is we do multiple interviews, meaning we'll do just an initial interview with like an admin. Then, somebody else on the leadership team will interview them, and eventually they'll get in and it'll be an in-person interview. So we filter out a lot based off of, first off, they have to pass the sniff test on the predictive index. So there is, and again, you have to be careful because the predictive index is not right or wrong, good or bad. But for this particular position, I am very specific as to who will thrive in this environment with our industry. So I am looking for the specific profile that I believe will thrive, particularly with the way I run the operation. Hard charging, very sales active and minded. And I think that's a prerequisite to be successful in our industry. So it's multiple interviews. It's setting clear expectations. And then it's actually even bringing them in to shadow for a day or two. Mm-hmm. So you can get to know them a little bit better. We had a guy come in one time to shadow. And by the way, we don't bat 1,000 with everybody we hired, but we do pretty well because now we bring them in to actually shadow, and we have them, even if they have sales experience, they should be able to do cold calling first day and just, get the marbles out of the mouth, talk to people on the phone. So through that experience, we're able to see and kind of test. Well, we had one guy come in one time and, he was 3 hours in and he committed to be there for 5 hours. He's like, hey, I had something come up with my family and I just need to get out of here. And it was perfect because we didn't call him back. He didn't call us back. He just realized, this isn't for me. And it was perfect because we tested it before. We dated it a little bit. So there is an element of dating that does help the process.
Yeah, I took that away from Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time, really testing someone out before. And
yes,
I've done that now several times, and I'm glad that I learned about that. When it comes to players, yes.
From me? Did Dan learn it from me or did I learn it from Dan?
Definitely Dan learned it from you. There's no doubt about
that.
Learned it.
Dan doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He learned it from
you. Yeah, no doubt about it. When it comes to your team, holding standards, holding people accountable, are you a fire fast and hire slow kind of guy? I'll say I've had team members for a long time, and I'm not quick to fire, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. What's your experience been like in business with that? Have you had lots of turnover? That's the nature of the business. Have you had people on the team forever, and that's just they've been there since day one? What does it look like for you?
So in every position other than acquisitions, we have almost no turnover. We have people that have been with us for a long time. And that's really cool because we build a pretty thriving environment. I believe that people are scaling and growing with us. I mean, one of our first hires is on the corporate side of Joe now and providing a tremendous amount of value. So that's the short answer relative to turnover. But do I fire fast? The one thing I fire fast for is the minute I sense any level of dishonesty. It's a core value breach. So if our core values are humble, heart for others, hunger, and honest, if somebody breaks honest or they don't treat a seller right, and the details come out and they really did breach one of the core values, it's an immediate, hey, and it's not even a we hate you type thing. It's like, hey, this is what you committed to. We just can't tolerate this sort of thing in the business. So that's the fire fast. Outside of that, we work pretty diligently to see the potential of the individual and build a framework around them that can help them thrive. And really we are that humble aspect of the 4 H's of our core values is we need somebody that's teachable. So the other one, again, it would be a core value breach, but anytime somebody stops learning or is showing that they're committed to perpetual growth and development, that's an easy one. And that's, we've ran into people. In fact, have you guys ever used the people analyzer? It's part of the EOS entrepreneur model. It's the get it, want it, and capable.
Yeah.
Right. Assessment. So what you essentially do is you put them through, the deal. You put them through your core values first. So when I'm assessing somebody, right now I have somebody on my team that we were on the call with the leadership team, and there's somebody within the team that we're questioning. Are they an A player? Are they somebody that we want to keep on building with? So we went them through the core values first. So it's a plus, minus, or a plus minus, meaning, we need to dive deeper. So when we went through this individual, all 4 of us that were on that specific call said, okay, yes, he's a plus in this, a minus on this, a plus on this. Well, if there's any minuses to the core values, okay, that should be a immediate, consideration. Okay, we shouldn't be working with them because there's nobody on our team that's not meeting our core values. And then the final part of that is, do they get it? Meaning, are they capable? Do they understand it? Do they want it? And I use capable twice there, but do they get it? Do they want it? And are they capable? And you do a plus minus or plus minus if it's, they're somewhere in the middle. Anyway, if you kind of write that out on a piece of paper, you balance it out to your core values and then you balance it out to the GWC, then that's how we use and determine if it's somebody we want to run with. Anyway, you could probably get a better description than I just described, but it's a tool that we use regularly.
I want to hear about how you handle those people who can't. You guys have had a lot of hyper growth, and so the people who get it, but they can't necessarily get it to the next level of where you're trying to get to. Do you move them around or do you let them go?
Move them around. We just moved somebody around that has been with us for 7 years. Crazy talented, crazy committed, maverick. And so we found a better position for this individual. And I think they're going to thrive. It's a new transition because we see their buy-in, we see their commitment, we see their core value alignment, and we're committed to their growth. And oftentimes it's just, moving to a different seat in the bus. And I think it's going to be approved to be the right move. But that's why you do both the core values and you do the GWC. Because if they don't get it or want it or don't have the time, meaning the capable side, then you need to take a hard look. And oftentimes you need to make a pivot.
How difficult is it to layer this on top of franchisees? I know with your team members and people that work directly with you, right? I mean, it's kind of a different thing, right? But what happens when you've got a paying customer franchisee that's come on and they aren't necessarily perfect alignment with all of these things? What's your guys' approach with that type of stuff?
That is the ultimate challenge because we've sold franchises to people we love that have great core values, but they're not getting it at the level that they need to, or they maybe not even want it. They realize after a while that it's tougher, right? So that's why we really are queuing into working with people that have existing experience that, hey, I've got my teeth kicked in several times and guess what? I'm still want to do it more. So we're doing a better job of identifying and setting expectations there because we're committed, Jason. We're committed to the life of the relationship, and we'll bend over backwards. And even if it requires extra lift, that's a commitment we made. And so we've got a few of those, but and some of them work themselves out, and some of them will require ongoing continual lift. But it generally works itself out.
Is it hard for you guys? I know we talk about me, Dean, and Strat about with coaching students, they come on board and it's just something's not clicking. They're not getting it, or they just don't show up the way that they, right? Like was that hard for you guys to deal with too? Like, just like, you're pouring into them, you're doing all the heavy lifting. They're just either not meeting you halfway or they're not putting in the effort. And how have you gotten to the space where you've just kind of like understood that everybody's an adult here and, we've all got to make decisions and there's a price that they have to pay too? What have you guys done with that?
So I have to tell you, that's one of the biggest challenges for me as a leader is, again, we've been a franchise now for 5 years. Guys, I've done, flights all across the country, spent 3 days with one franchisee, one-on-one. Probably the least effective thing I could do as one of the founders and, CEO of the company is just isolate my efforts for one day. But that's how committed I've been, and I will continue to be to the growing of the franchisee. But one of the developments I've made as a leader is allowing people to be adults, allowing people to, because look, Gino says we don't teach, we can't coach, we don't teach energy and effort. That has to come from them. And so now I've developed as a leader, I don't know how that is received when I say that, but I'm trying to develop as a leader in the sense that I go back to these franchise partners and I say, look, I can help you when you're helping yourself. I can teach you technique and skill. I can't teach energy and effort. You've got to do it. And I'm doing better at realizing I can't move their feet for them anymore. They've got to do it. And obviously that's when you thrive together, is when they're moving their feet, we're moving our feet, and the technique and skills develop. But in the early days, bro, I was guilty of trying to move people's feet all the time, and it doesn't work.
You're 100% right. It doesn't work. Can't make people want it.
You can't make people want it. Not at all.
Great answer, bro. Great answer. Go ahead, Dina.
I was just going to add one last thing here, which is when it comes to the framework to support your team, what does that look like? Is that a series of meetings, and these are the series of meetings we do every single week, and this is the structure, this is the intent behind it? How do you, what framework do you have to support your team to be their best selves?
Yeah, so we've got a leadership development support call every week, as well as modules and training within the CR, the LMS, the learning management system, because we really want people to have resources for personal and professional development. We have, so everything has both meetings, individual mentorship, and module learning, videos, SOPs, that type of thing. But yeah, we have everything from marketing, dispositions, lots and lots on acquisitions. And then we train at our facility in Salt Lake. So, when somebody hires an acquisition manager, they can send them to shadow our acquisition managers in Utah. So it's hands-on. We have the once a week, everybody gets together to just get company-wide updates, as well as just, receive some, quick masterminding strategy. And then we break up into zones. So we have West zone, Central zone, East zone, and we have masterminds broken up into their regions, right? And then we do events all throughout the year. We're in Phoenix in June. We're in Dallas in November, Sacramento some of the time. So we're doing this and bringing our Joes together as often as possible so that they have the mastermind, the community, and the mentorship. They get all that with Joe Homebuyer.
I told Cody it's the best franchise you can buy. I know someone who personally owns Homevestors, and he pays like $2,000 a phone call. And I was like, bro, this is insane. There's no, how are you profitable? Like, how are you profitable? And like, he goes,
I don't know how you can be profitable with that. Yeah.
I have no idea how, and this is in Vegas. It's a very hyper competitive market. And yeah, best franchise in the game, in my opinion. Mark, do you have any parting words for the people?
Well, hey, look, if you guys don't know Jason, Strat, and Dean, you obviously are listening to him. You got to hang out with them. I had a great time today. These guys not only are funny and just good to be around, but dude, we accomplished a couple things: real estate talk and best bubbly water. So, no, I'm just grateful to be hanging out with you guys. Hey, I have to give a shout out to Dean. He came to our conference in San Diego and literally just brought such an incredible energy and just nature about just authentic, business development, growth, and leadership. And so thank you, Dean. It was just an honor to have you and just really a go-giver. It was just a really inspirational feeling that you left our group. So I just surely appreciate that. And I'm just grateful to be with you guys today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's our pleasure to have you today, man. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mark, where can people find out more about Joe, and where can people find out more about you?
Guys, we're all over the place. I'm not the best at social media. That's Cody's job. I don't even have a handle to put up here. At StubFam, and I posted like once in the last year. But so that's Instagram. But JoeHomebuyerFranchising.com. If you want to learn more, there's a misconception that the franchise is going to cost you $1 million. Guys, you can get a franchise for a very reasonable amount. If you're interested in building a framework around having that mentorship and the assistance along the way, we'd love to talk with you. It's a free consultation. We'll talk strategy. But JoeHomebuyerFranchising.com. And if you want that LOWAC giveaway, I'm telling you, just email us at yourgift@joehomebuyer.com. And literally, there's no strings attached. Sure, now we have your email, so you'll hear from us occasionally. But I'm telling you, that LOWAC, if you track your vitals that way, it will have an impact on your business.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, Mark. Guys, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Mark.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Peace.